Hey guys, I'm Rob Robelad from Toolbox Buzz. I'm here at the Equip Expo with Katy from Milwaukee Power Tools. She is the product manager with the MX backpack blower, correct?
Yep, that's right. Yeah,
Exciting.
I cover overall blower category, and excited to talk about our newest solution, the MX Fuel backpack blower.
Well, I've got a lot of questions. First of all, I don't know if you saw it or not, but we just finished a backpack blower head-to-head test that's on our website, and we tested your M18 blower.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Is this same format? Does it look the same? Tell me a little bit about what's different from the M18 to the MX, and maybe why you made that jump to MX.
Yeah, absolutely. So the number one thing is, these are not competing solutions, and there's really a place for both of them in the market. And blowers are a category where we're going to continue to put focus on when it comes to new product development, driving innovation, taking advantage of the latest and greatest technologies, as well as, the advantages of all our systems. So looking at the M18 blower versus the MX, that M18 blower is running off of our M18 platform, obviously, where we have a large installed user base, a range of solutions within not only our outdoor category, but also our power tool category. And it's really a good fit for, those professional users who are looking for that system fit within all of the other outdoor products, as well as, those installed users who may be using blowers for job site cleanup and things like that.
So kind of rounding out the category for MX.
Absolutely.
In a sense, right? I mean, I am an M18 user. It's funny, I love the fact that I go to work and I use my tools at work, but then I can take those batteries and plug them in. I can mow my lawn, trim the grass, hedge the hedges. So I like the well-roundedness of the M18.
Yeah.
But I can totally see rounding out the MX category. Makes 100% sense.
Oh, for sure.
Same features, same feature sets, same CFMs, Newtons. Talk to me about some of the feature sets on it.
Yeah, for sure. So when we look at the performance, the MX blower is delivering about 50% higher blowing force than the M18. So huge step up in performance.
Wow.
Yep. So it's pretty similar to a 65cc gas competitor, 800 CFM, 190 miles an hour, and like I mentioned, that 30 newtons of blowing force versus the M18, which is closer to the 20 newtons of blowing force.
Really increasing the power. So you're moving wet leaves, moving all kinds of debris. Runtime. Runtime's always a big thing. And runtime's confusing because like when we test runtime, we're on high and we're just throttling the thing full high and it's done. But in reality, that's not how a tool is used per se. So, and I'm sure that you guys look at that. So talk to me about runtime and what goes into that and what your research is on what runtime really looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. So when people think of runtime, a lot of times they're not correlating that to how long am I pulling the trigger full throttle, but what's the working time I'm getting. So with the MX blower, if you were to lock it on to high mode and just let it run, you'd get about 20 minutes of consistent high performance trigger time. But when we have this in the field with users, they're coming back and saying, I'm getting 30, 40 minutes of runtime because they're correlating that to work.
The trigger,
exactly.
They're blowing grass clippings versus heavy leaves. I get that.
Yep, and they'll release the trigger to move to one area of the property, so much longer working time.
I see that experience too with tools in my field. I have a competitor cordless vacuum, and I'm big. I'm 99% cordless, except for chargers, vacuums, and sometimes compressors. But vacuums, they're a heavy draw tool. You're cleaning up, you need runtime. My vacuum will maybe last 15, 20 minutes if I'm continuously vacuuming. But when I hook it up to my miter saw, which is really why I have it, I go all day, sometimes 2 days on that one charge because I'm making a cut and I stop. And so runtime can be confusing. That's why I was asking you about that.
Exactly, and I think
working time is better.
100%, yes. Yeah. And with blowers, we're aware they're a very energy-hungry tool, like vacuums, air movement, and not just us. If you look at the overall battery-powered industry, runtime is something that it continues to be, an area of improvement with battery blowers, and that's something that we're continuously working on within the blower space is how can we drive up that efficiency to get more work done, more runtime, higher power out of these blowers.
That's interesting. I noticed it looks to me, and I might be wrong, it looks to me like it's the exact same backpack format as the M18, except obviously it's a bigger battery instead of little ones. Did you pretty much build off of that platform? Same adjustments, same weight maybe, or?
Yeah, so during the M18 project, we put an extensive amount of time up front into this harness design, understanding, how can we deliver a harness that's going to meet all the different needs of different size operators. So that's something we definitely carried over to the MX as it was, a really positive piece of feedback we got on the M18. But when it comes to weight, the MX blower, if you compare that to with an MX 12.0 versus the M18 with 4 M18 12.0s, the MX blower is about a pound lighter. So we were able to take some weight out of that MX blower.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What drove the bus to MX? Was it the M18 users asking for more power, or was it the MX users asking to round out the category? So, who are your users, your end users that you were getting the feedback from on this?
Yep. So there's a couple different kind of user groups. So number one, a huge piece of feedback we got from some users on the M18 is not only would they want some more power, but also a single battery solution. If you think of these large commercial companies, they're running lots of crews, lots of products, and having to manage 4 packs on a single backpack blower isn't ideal for everybody, even though there are some users who really appreciate that adaptive battery setup. So that's kind of what we were going after from the landscape maintenance side of that higher powered single battery solution. But you bring up a great point where if you look at the MX tools today, we have a lot of construction concrete tools, right, and those concrete users are using blowers every day to clean up sites. So now we have that strong system fit with the GC and concrete user as well.
One of the guys on my crew, Stan Durlacher, he's a commercial PM, and he says they use the blowers to blow off, like, I don't know what it's called. It's almost like pieces of rebar and metal and stuff off of the metal decking before they pour concrete.
Yep.
And he said it's a big deal for them to have a blower that can actually push that stuff to one end and they can sweep it up. So I think that's great. What other features does this have that maybe the M18 doesn't have? Or I think one key. It has one key, right? So we talk about that a little bit, or?
Yeah. So one key is a big feature that we have on this blower that we don't on the M18. And obviously we can use that one key for its tracking capabilities, but we're also able to do some pretty unique things through the One Key app when it comes to performance management. So, we had talked about runtime being a challenge on battery powered blowers. And as we've been getting, blowers in front of these large commercial companies, some of them are requesting, I would love if there's a way that I could almost limit the performance in the field.
Throttle it down.
Yeah, because these crew members are used to using gas where they don't have to worry about energy conservation. So through the One Key app, we're actually able to, whoever that key decision maker is or owner of the tool can go in and say, okay, today you guys are just doing light grass clippings. You can get away with only going up to mode 1, which is still 600 CFM, 145 miles an hour, and they'll get 45 minutes of actual run time, trigger time, but like we mentioned, that can also correlate to longer working time. So this is enables the crew lead to have better control of how much energy is being used, how many packs they need to deploy.
Interesting. So you can put a governor or a throttle on it and throttle it down. Tracking, so like tool crib or fleet management, if I've got 10 of these units, I've got a big landscape company or something, I can know where unit number 3 is, or it's with this team or crew?
Yeah, so if it's within a certain range of anybody who has the One Key app, they'll be able to locate it. And also, say your blower goes missing or your One Key tool goes missing, you can go into the app and actually lock that tool out. So if somebody had stolen it, now the tool's not useful for them.
Once it's locked out, can it be unlocked by a non-owner? Like, if I had One Key on my phone, could I unlock it, or is it only
the owner? Yes, only the owner of the tool. So it's a good way to kind of help. Theft is obviously a big concern in all trades. So One Key kind of helps with deterring that.
It deters it from walking home on a Friday afternoon from an employee too.
Exactly.
Disgruntled or whatever.
Yeah.
Available in price. It's coming out now. It's showing at the show today, right?
So we're announcing it at the show now, but it's actually not shipping until Q3 next year.
Okay.
So it'll be ready for fall cleanup next year. So we still have a while to go, but really excited to get it out of the Equip show, as this is, the biggest outdoor show of the year.
Let's talk about gas versus battery, because that is the big conversation. That's the huge debate. Everybody is talking about it, and can batteries really cut the gas cord, so to speak? When you designed this, I think you said 65 cc gas motor. You compared it to that. Mm-hmm. Did you compare your runtime to that?
Yes, for sure. So whenever we are starting a project, we do extensive testing on those key benchmarks in the market. So when you look at a gas blower, they could get anywhere around 45 minutes of that runtime. So while we're delivering that performance, runtime is, we're very aware it's not quite meeting that gas runtime. And that's why we know it's really critical that we're not focusing on delivering gas performance, but how can we deliver overall ecosystem to deliver gas replacement, and we have a lot of power management solutions which are going to help kind of offset those runtime concerns.
So would you say that the MX, let's take your largest MX battery, is comparable to a tank of gas or almost there?
It would be probably 2 of our batteries would be
Okay.
comparable to a tank of gas. So
It's interesting you said that. When we tested cutoff saws, I think it was a Husqvarna steel gas unit we brought in, and we threw that into the cordless test. You guys were in this test, and we figured out it was 2 batteries per tank of gas, and that's not unreasonable. I mean, I would want 2 batteries so you can be swapping them out and charging one while you're using one. So that's good. I like that.
And also, we know that while this is a awesome blower, we're really excited to get it out. This is a journey that we're on, and we're going to continue to iterate. And the goal is to deliver that full gas replacement. It's just blowers, like I mentioned, super energy hungry tool, and we need to continue to drive improvements in efficiency there.
Well, I think the goal on this stuff is you have to meet the on-the-go demand, the charging on the go. These are high demand tools that are being used at a job, then they're going to another job, and they're going to another job, and they need to be able to recharge fast, or they need a ton of batteries, which is expensive, right? So where do you see us going? Where do you see Milwaukee going in the future towards solving the on-the-go charging? It's, inverters aren't the solution, solar's not the solution. I know competitors, they have big tanks that charge fast, and others use smaller batteries, and you're charging a bunch of them. Where do you guys, where are you heading, and how are you going to deal with that?
Yeah, so when we look at the landscaper, there's not a one size fits all approach for them. Whether you're a mobile commercial or a mobile user, an on-site user, you're doing residential properties, commercial properties, are all going to have different needs and capabilities when it comes to charging. So for some users, if they're a mobile user and they're on the go nonstop, hitting 30 plus properties a day, and they don't have access to power, it's probably good for them to take advantage of bulk charging overnight. And we have some solutions there with our new pack-out charger and being able to charge 60 M18 12-0 batteries overnight, so they're set up for the day. And then on the mobile charging side, there are some users who they don't want to have to, bulk charge overnight, or might not have the infrastructure or space to do that. So mobile charging is certainly a big focus for us. And when we look at, where we're going with MX and OPE, it's not a category or a system where we're going to say we're going to make every single tool on MX. We're going to be very strategic of where does it make sense, where does it fit, as each system really has its unique benefits.
I think it makes sense to go in that direction because, again, we talk about rounding out platforms. Landscapers don't want a whole bunch of different stuff, right? They would want a push mower that is MX. They would want, unless they're going to do M18 for everything and then just go MX blower. I mean, if that's the case, they might just do M18 for everything, even the blower.
Yeah.
Right? And other users like the concrete guys or the commercial guys are using these MX because they have the high blow capacity.
Yeah. And one thing we've heard too from these companies is, obviously a piece of it is using that same battery on the tools, but a lot of it comes down to charging, as that's the biggest challenge. So using our power manager, it kind of helps to bridge the systems in a way where you can plug in, MX chargers to charge your MX batteries overnight, and also plug in your M18 chargers to charge that overnight without those concerns of tripping a breaker.
That was a very cool demo at Pipeline, by the way. I think it was 3 different versions of overnight charging.
Yeah.
And I was really intrigued by that. It was like how they set it up, and you're right, you can do it all off a regular 15 amp circuit, which is great, because I would think you would be tripping things like crazy. But they figured it out.
Yeah, and that was a huge pain point as we had these early adopters who were being, regulated to move to battery, and using gas their whole life, and then having to set up battery chargers. They're tripping breakers overnight. So definitely something we needed a solution for, and we're really excited to get that out the door.
Do you see maybe next steps for this charging solution stuff where maybe the roll-on has more capacity, or do you see it going in a different direction?
Yeah, I mean, that would just, looking right now, nothing that we're sharing now, but we know that to serve the needs of the landscape maintenance professional and be the brand of choice, we need to have that full range of solutions. We need to have capable mobile charging solutions, overnight solutions. So we're definitely looking at everything as an ecosystem and not just, hey, let's make a really great blower, but how can we keep these users productive day in and day out?
Are some of the users that you're placing these tools with, are they giving you feedback? Are they having struggles with the charging?
Yeah. And it's definitely more just understanding their needs. So when we look at, like I said, not all users the same. They need to understand what their energy needs are and then how they can be best set up to support those energy needs. So when we're kind of guiding users or companies to these charging solutions, number one is understanding how many packs are you going through a day? What does your duty cycle look like? Do you have access to power? Are you going to be charging overnight? So then we can say, okay, if you're going through this many batteries a day, you have access to power, let's set you up with this. If not, okay, let's bulk charge overnight. So it's really, first you got to understand their usage and needs, and then we can kind of help solve that solution.
I think bulk charging overnight is a great solution right now, and it's probably the best solution we have. The problem is you have to have the bulk to charge, and batteries are expensive. And I wonder, a lot of these regulations in communities are changing to, they don't want to hear the emissions of the noise, all that stuff. And as a landscaper who's all gas and wants to now go to cordless, that's got to be a huge expense. So to be a bulk charger, you have to have a dozen batteries, right, to do this. Do you have anything in place to finance or help some of these folks if they wanted to switch over? Because it's got to be a massive changeover cost, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, even if you're just switching all of your equipment over, there's a larger upfront investment cost.
Huge, yeah.
And a lot of these, especially states, municipalities that are forcing this conversion, do have incentive programs in place that are helping offset this cost. So, like California and Colorado both have statewide programs where at point of purchase, you can get a discount. And so all you have to do, make sure that the brand you're buying is a part of that program, which we are. So they're helping fund that. There's also municipalities who are taking the same approach. And then interestingly enough, there are some power utility companies that are actually helping fund this conversion because they want people to pull more energy off the grid.
Are these real discounts, or are they just something feel-good discounts from, you mentioned 3. Could you do all 3? What are we talking about discounting?
Yeah, so I would have to follow up with you to get all the details, but it is a pretty substantial, everything's kind of different. It is a pretty substantial savings and has helped these companies. It's kind of softening the blow of that upfront investment cost. And something, even there is that higher investment cost. If you look at the life of a battery product versus gas, you're not having to pay for maintenance. You're not having to, pay for continuously buying gas. So while there is that initial investment cost, over time, it kind of levels out, and you're kind of spreading the love because you're not having to pay for all that maintenance.
Spread the love.
Yeah.
I think of the gas issue where I can think of so many times where guys have ruined a good tool because they mixed the gas wrong. So there's no gas issues. You just pull the trigger and you go. I also think that maybe these guys and gals that are doing this transfer over to battery, maybe they piecemeal it, right? Maybe you start off with a trimmer or the blower or something, hedge trimmer, and then you slowly work into it. But it's got to be, I gotta guess it's got to be resistance, because they don't want to do that. I mean, they don't want to spend the money, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's coming out of their profits or their company. So it's got to be, it's a big debate. I know it's a debate in my neck of the woods. I'm in the Boston area, and there's some towns that have enacted that no gas blower, and eventually, like within a year, they want mowers and everything to be battery. And they're pushing back hard. These guys are like, this is our living, this is our livelihood. It's a big expense. So.
Oh yeah, and we've seen so many different adoption paths. You brought up, kind of piecemealing.
Yeah.
And that's how we kind of initially saw professionals getting into it. Hedge trimmers are something, battery-powered hedge trimmers, pretty low current draw. They can really meet the performance and runtime needs of gas. And that's something we've seen been adopted for years. Blowers, though, are definitely the one that, like I said, most energy hungry, biggest challenge when it comes to converting to battery powered. And they're also the ones that have a lot of regulations outside of even just gas.
100%,
Noise regulations. I mean, DC has banned the usage of gas blowers. So definitely there's some, I would say, frustration from some users while they're like, hey, I'm dragging my feet, I'm not converting until I have to.
Right.
But on the other end, there's some users who are more forward thinking and say, I'm going to get ahead of it. I'm going to convert. It's going to be a bit of a challenge, but better to kind of get ahead of that.
I was behind a trailer the other day that said 100% gas-free landscaping.
Yeah.
Hire us if you want. I thought that was kind of cool. They used that. Obviously, they took the expense, and it was probably very expensive, and they're using it as a marketing ploy.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, this is off topic of the blower, but I have the multi-head
Oh yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So I have like a edger trimmer, hedge, and a little chainsaw thing that I'll clip into the power head. Are pros going that approach, or are they going dedicated hedge trimmer, dedicated pole trimmer? What are the pros going after?
Most pros, especially those larger companies, are using those dedicated solutions
thought,
because
yeah.
they're going to want each individual crew member is going to be doing a different task. Where we'll see the quick lock or attachment system adoption is more if you're like a single operator and you're going to run, okay, I'm going to string trim and then I need to use the hedge trimmer, I need to use the edger because there's only one person, so
Right.
they can kind of take up less space in the trailer, not have to invest in all these different tools. But generally speaking, professionals are going to be looking for those dedicated solutions.
It's a tremendously brilliant solution for a homeowner too, because as a DIY homeowner who does their own stuff at home, I've got 8 tools, 1 power head, 1 battery.
Yeah.
Right? Not more than 1 battery, but 1 battery powers it all. And that's the same battery that I put into my circular saw, my reciprocating saw. So I get, the crossover is just excellent. So how does this system kind of blend in and work with the OP category as a whole? How do we fit that in?
Yeah, so when we look at what's currently on the MX system, traditionally, or those MX products were really going after the GC user. You look at cutoff saw, a lot of concrete tools. But then we also have a lot of these solutions like the cutoff saw, plate compactor that have a really strong fit to that landscape construction user as well.
Masonry landscape contractor, right.
Yeah, and a lot of these companies, especially large companies, they'll have a maintenance as well as a construction division. So a lot of these users may already have some of these MX products for construction, and now adding this backpack blower, not only are they able to use that for the construction side, but it's really our first MX product that has a strong landscape maintenance fit. So it's not only rounding out the construction, but getting in our foot in the door with the landscape maintenance side of things. And, like we talked about a little bit, while we're not going to go every product with an MX and have a full line, it's going to be very strategic of where that makes sense.
I think the next step for me, if I were in the Milwaukee back room designing things, would be that backpack interface that plugs into a trimmer, that plugs into a pole saw. Is that the next step for that kind of setup? So the blower comes off and you put on, it could be dedicated too, but is that how you'll do this? It'll all be backpack worn?
It's I would say that there's nothing that we're on the roadmap now that we're focusing on that's related to that, but we're definitely thinking of ways of how can we better bridge these two systems, whether it's through charging, like being able to use the power manager, but what are ways that we can have these be cohesive systems without just saying we're going to have every single solution on both.
Interesting. I'm thinking like forward thinking. I see it fitting on a lawnmower easy. It's like got wheels, you push it, but I can't see you holding a trimmer with a MX battery. It's just too heavy and awkward. That's why I'm thinking. I think the backpack is the vehicle, and then everything plugs into it. So that's my prediction.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I have my landscape. I do a lot of general contracting, subcontracting work, and my masonry landscape contractor buys 12 gas saws a year. They burn out, the guys mix the fuel wrong, they leave the fuel in too low, it just gets fouled, and they don't have time to mess around and repair these, they just toss them and buy new ones. I finally got him to try the cutoff saw, the battery cutoff saw, loves it. So I don't know if he'll go completely battery now, but the guys can't mess it up. They just have to remember to charge it. So, you can only lead a horse to water, right? But can't make him drink it, but he's pretty impressed with it so far, and he was impressed with the amount of cuts it could get. So they were doing using it on a bluestone patio, and they had cobblestones as well. And it did everything they needed it to do, and they didn't have to mess with the fuel, and they didn't have the fumes. So
Yeah.
good stuff.
Oh, yeah. And I think that kind of can bring up another point with the blower where a lot of categories like, string trimmers, hedge trimmers, those can be full gas replacements with what they're delivering now. But, these blowers we see, through like spring, summer, and those times of year, it can be the go-to solution. But fall cleanup, a lot of times we're seeing crews are running gas and they'll use this as a supplement. Yeah. So while we're seeing kind of the opposite side where people traditionally used to be using battery and then would use gas as a supplement as needed, this blower is kind of the opposite end of that. But
I also see a wheeled blower, right?
Yeah.
Maybe 2 MX batteries, and because you get more runtime on that and wheeling it around. Is that being asked for by the landscape guys?
It's definitely something, we see, especially during those heavy fall cleanup times
yeah.
of year, where even the leading gas backpack blowers struggle to keep up with that demand, and they'll have to bring out this. So we're continuously thinking of ways, how can we solve for these productivity challenges in the
Right.
fall with this conversion to battery?
Yeah, I see there's a yard on my street that's pretty big, and the landscaper, one guy is using the wheel thing kind of like just direct and massive, and he's got two on either side with handhelds flanking him, and they're kind of funneling it into a pile. I totally see that as a solution for something with wheels too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely a lot of, improvements and new products and innovation to come within the blower category. And this MX blower is really a step in the right direction and, is delivering that leading gas performance. So
Absolutely. I think it's exciting, and thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
This is exciting time for Milwaukee and the MX platform in general, so we'll see where they take it.
Yeah. Thank you.